What's going on, Noles Nation? CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. I am your host, here to bring you guys some breaking news on this weekend. Offensive lineman transfer from UCF, Adrian Medley, has decided to commit to FSU. FSU gets a big-time offensive lineman to follow, Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand from UCF. Really good get for FSU, 6'5", 305 pounds, plays left guard for UCF and will be playing the same position for FSU. So again, very good get from Mike Norvell and staff. Herb Hand, of course, coached him. Gus Malzahn coached him. He's from the Pensacola area. Has played a lot of football. Started all 12 games for UCF this year with 19 career starts overall. He was one of their highest graded pass blocking offensive linemen and run blocking offensive linemen. So a big time get. Adrian did have this comment after his official visit to FSU. His official visit, I guess you could say, wrap up interviews with the media and things like that. FSU wants him at left guard. And this is a direct quote. I already know the players and everything. They just want me to come in and be a leader and to start. That's exactly what we need on the offensive line. As I stated, he was one of their best offensive linemen. You guys know this was probably the worst offensive line we've seen in FSU history. Just keeping it 100% real. University of North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Colorado was other teams that were involved in Adrian's transfer portal recruitment. He did help UCF to have the 7th overall rushing attack this year. And as you guys know, if you watched FSU football, guard play was some of the worst we've had at FSU. That's one of the main reasons why, we were in the 100s as far as rushing attack overall. You go to UCF, those guys are in the top 10 rushing. So our biggest issue on offense was the offensive line, run blocking, of course, pass blocking in certain situations. And Adrian Medley definitely helps us out and upgrades that room within that aspect. You pair him along with Gunnar Hansen. I think Herb Hand has two guys he could work with. Of course, we're still trying to add more on the transfer portal from the offensive line. Because I wouldn't mind if we had completely, let's see, 4 new starters across the board for the offensive line position for FSU. I do believe we end up getting Richie Leonard back from injury. Richie Leonard was one of the bright spots on the offensive line prior to his injury last year. He should be a starter at the right guard position, and with Adrian Medley at the left guard position. And also, like I said, Gunnar Hansen can lock down a tackle position. If we get a center and one more tackle and some more depth pieces, I feel like we can have a competent offensive line going into the 2025 season. And that's saying a lot, and that asking a lot. Not necessarily asking a lot, but just saying a lot based off what we had last year. Like I said, it was the worst offensive line that I've seen ever at FSU. If we could get back to just average for this 2025 season, hell, if we were just average last year on the offensive line, we possibly looking at a 6-win season. But nonetheless, that's in the past. Let's move on to the future. I really like what Herb Hand is doing. He clearly has a type as far as body sizes and things like that, something we really didn't prioritize in the previous regime as far as the offensive line coach. You got to have a look about yourself as far as the offensive line. And Adrian Medley fits that, 6'5", 305 pounds. Get coached up by Herb Hand for one more year up in Tallahassee. So a big-time get for the Noles. Like I said, he was UCF's best offensive lineman this past year, so it's a welcoming pleasure to have him join the staff. Not join the staff necessarily, join the team for the 2025 season. And end up blocking for Thomas Castellano, the quarterback. We also had some big news on Friday evening, some very big news. We've been prioritizing the trenches on offense and defense, and FSU got a big-time defensive player on the defensive line, and Deante McCray out of Western Kentucky University. The jumbo defensive end fits what we want within the 3-3-5 scheme. He played within the 3-3-5 scheme at Western Kentucky, 6'4", 280 pounds. Yeah. 6'4", 280 pounds, and he looks the part, looks every bit of it, well put together, nothing out of place or anything like that. He has 2 years left to play. The kid is from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida to be exact. So them Jacksonville kids, they typically have that type of dog in them and that type of fight, and you see that on this film. This past season for Western Kentucky, he had 59 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. He visited FSU after Western Kentucky's bowl game, in which he tallied up 6 tackles in that bowl game. And like I say, he's 6'4", 280 pounds, but he's very athletic. Over the summer in strength and conditioning and testing for Western Kentucky, he got to speeds up to 20 miles per hour as far as running. And that's pretty much unheard of for a guy that size at 6'4", 280 pounds. Like I say, he's a violent guy. He sets the edge, exactly what you need within this 3-3-5 defense, as you want bigger defensive ends that can set the edge. So you pair him with so you got a Deante McCray, who's a physical presence, sets the edge, and that type of deal, violent in the run game. And you got James Williams, who's pretty much a pass rush specialist. They called him Sack Man in Nebraska. You pair those guys up, and of course, some more big news. We ended up getting one of our defensive tackles back from the he was going to declare for the draft in Darrell Jackson, but decided to come back for one more year of school. So I think the defensive line is in pretty good hands thus far. I don't think we're done by any stretch of the imagination. I do know that Tony White and Coach Potrose, Terrence Knighton want to add more defensive linemen to the room, but they're getting guys that fit what they want to do from a scheme perspective. And hell, Deante McCray is just that. Just looking at his film, is night and day from what we had at the defensive end position. As you guys know, Patrick Payton ended up entering the transfer portal and decided to leave Florida State. From a physical presence and the edge setting presence, we really didn't have that for FSU. Definitely didn't get it from Patrick Payton, as he more so just wanted to rush the passer and things like that. Deante McCray definitely does that. He brings a physical presence to the run game, and also relentless effort in the pass rush game. He had over 25 pressures this past season for Western Kentucky, which is top 10 nationally. So this is a guy that get after the quarterback, understands the assignment, and doesn't take plays off, and is very physical and violent in the run game, which is something FSU desperately needs and something they really haven't had since going. Well, not because they really haven't had, because if you go 2 years ago, that's what Jared Verse prided himself in, is being physical in the run game, pretty much sending the message, right? Being physical in the run game, being a physical pass rusher in the passing game. I think Deante McCray is just what the doctor ordered, especially at 6'4", 280 pounds. Like I said, the kid is from Jacksonville, ultra athletic. Just looking at, I didn't even know the kid's size initially, but looking at his pictures next to Mike Norvell's official visit, I was like, yeah, he looks the part. He could definitely come to FSU and be the first man off the bus type of guy. But the film does match the look. He's very active on film. A lot of production over his time at UCF. I'm sorry, not UCF, at Western Kentucky. So I really think this is a big time get for FSU. And like I stated, we're not done at all as far as trenches. I feel like we're going to be adding more offensive linemen and more defensive linemen along the way. But this is a very good start to have Adrian Medley commit to FSU today, and also to have Deante McCray commit to FSU yesterday on his official visit, like I stated. Really good start, really good weekend for FSU, and you pair that with what we already have in Gunnar Hansen, who was all-world at Vanderbilt, over 30 career starts, only gave up 1 sack in 2024. And that's playing against teams like Florida, that's playing against LSU, that's playing against Alabama, multiple, teams that have athletic edge rushers that can get after the quarterback. Gunnar only gave up 1 sack within those games. And then you factor in James Williams, who was in a reserve role over at Nebraska, but he had the highest pass rush rate within the country and tallied 5 sacks behind that. Now you give him more snaps and more reps, and like I said, starter role for FSU. I really think the sky's the limit for James Williams, and also Deante McCray, who just needs to be on the bigger stage and just showcase his skills. I really feel like this is a good get for FSU. We have more along the way. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and join the DoakTalk family. It's going to be interesting next couple weeks to a month for FSU as they try to fill out their roster heading into spring practice for the 2025 season. Tap in with DoakTalk. Go Noles.